Welcome to Leen on Kindness with Eileen Cosby, a podcast dedicated to spreading kindness, fostering empathy, and eliminating hate, one story at a time. This podcast is your reminder that kindness isn't just a nice idea. It's a powerful force for transformation. Well, I am so excited to be here today. I know that I always start my podcast with that because I am always excited about the guests that I have. I want to tell you a little bit about the guests that I have here today. Many, many years ago, I was in an exercise class, and there was just something about this woman that was so fun. We were just cracking up in the class. It was a Zumba class. We weren't doing the moves right. We didn't care. We were cracking up. And then one thing just led to another. We got to know each other only to find out that we were born and raised in the same state of our beloved Utah. And one thing led to another. And we have been great, great friends ever since. We're always in touch. And I'm always on pace with what is going on with Dr. Deborah Wheeler. And to tell you a little bit about her, Dr. Wheeler has her bachelor's degree in psychology, her master's degree in clinical psychology, and a PhD in clinical psychology as well. She is what I would call a change agent, not only with individuals, but also in organizations. She is currently also a professor at Grand Canyon University, and she is a marvel in my eyes. So welcome, Dr. Deborah Wheeler, Dr. Deb, to me.
Thank you. That's quite an introduction. Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here today. And you know that my podcast my podcast is, we talk about kindness and how important it is, kindness and belonging, and eliminating hate. And one of the things that I think is important for people to have an understanding of is, why in the world are people unkind in the very first place?
Yes.
Because if we can, maybe even have a better understanding, it can help us move along in our movement to be more kind a little bit easier. And so those are some of the questions and the area of which we're going to specialize in today. But before we do that, I want to have you tell our audience a little bit about who you are, where you were raised. We talked about Utah. And a little bit about that. So let's start there. Where are you from, Deb?
Yes, I am from a very small town in Utah called Price, Utah. And that's, I was born in Salt Lake and I was raised in Price, Utah. And it's a small coal mining town, more diverse than most of the Utah cities because of coal miners coming from all around the world. It was an exciting place to be as a child, to go wander in the high desert and play and just have a wonderful upbringing. I did enjoy all the things that I could enjoy as a child there. It was a wonderful place to be.
That's great. So how far from Salt Lake is Price?
It's about 2
What
hours,
direction?
and nobody would know where that is unless you were on your way, say, to go riding in the hills of Moab or go into those red rocks and do, Jeep adventures. It was only on the way to somewhere else.
It's funny. I had someone send me a picture of what they thought Utah was, and it was beautiful, beautiful red rocks. And I forget about that because where I'm from, it was the Wasatch Front Mountains. So I didn't know anything about the red rocks of Utah for many, many years. And that is where Dr. Deb is from. So when you say diversity, explain to our audience what that means, given the Utah landscape of non-diversity.
Yes, relatively speaking, a very diverse city because the coal miners had traditionally come from all over the world, European countries, Eastern European countries. Coal miners, had been coming there for jobs for, 100 years already. So when those families put down roots in that area and stayed, even if they weren't still in coal mining, although that was the largest employer, that made it a little bit more diverse in terms of backgrounds and cultures and foods and religions, probably more so than other small towns.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you had more than just an LDS temple or chapel. You had different religions and people with different skin tones and a little bit different than a lot of the Utah cities.
Yes. Again, relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking. Yes, that's great. And so your childhood, pretty good, huh? You just enjoyed doing whatever you do when you're a little girl in Price, Utah.
Yes. Free range in the desert. Yes. It was a wonderful childhood.
That's great. And so how many siblings do you have?
I have a brother and a sister, both younger than me, 5 and 6 years younger.
Okay. And then what did your parents do there?
My father was a middle school teacher for almost 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And my mother was a stay-at-home stay-at-home mom until all the kids got older, and then she was in secretarial work.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. So as you moved into your middle school years and high school years, what was going on in your life during that time?
Also a very exciting time. I was doing a lot in academics. I excelled in school. My father was a teacher, so I was in the same junior high where he taught. It was very much focused on academics in my junior high and early high school years.
So did you feel any pressure as far as academics were concerned because of your father, or was that just a natural thing to excel in
Yeah,
academics for you?
I enjoyed my schooling. I did well at it naturally, but the expectation came from the idea that you would be educated, that you would value education. So it was both a natural inclination, but also a message from the family.
Okay. So as a result of getting an education, did you intend on being a professor one day? I mean, were you thinking about your career from having that education, or was that just something that was valued and could do you well in terms of achieving something personally for yourself?
I assumed I always would be a teacher somewhere along the way, and that did come true. But I decided in my first year of high school that I would be a psychologist. And I had no idea what that meant. I just knew that I wanted to understand people better. I wanted to relate with others better. And so I decided that, not knowing anything about the career path for that. But I was one of the few kids who had a vision and a path. I was going to accomplish that.
So what did a lot of the kids then that you were raised with do?
At that point, nobody knew what they were going to be when they grew up. There wasn't any path unless somebody had family who was already in the military and they knew that was their path, or if their family owned a business, that was their path.
What about working in the mines, since that was the primary employer
I
in
don't
town?
think that was the goal of high school students at that time.
No.
They knew if their parents or grandparents worked there, it was hard, it was dirty, it was unhealthy, it was risky. And I don't think any of those parents wanted that for their children.
Wow, that's interesting. You hear about that a lot. My dad was a coal miner, so then I became a coal miner, and then, but it sounds like that at that point, then a lot of the kids were like, "Nope, that's not for me."
Yes, very difficult life.
Yes, it is definitely. So everything's all smooth sailing when you're you're in high school.
Yeah.
Can you remember? I don't know if it would have been in high school or when it may have been, but when was something that you can remember where you were being treated unkindly? I mean, you had decided that you wanted to go into psychology because you wanted to understand people better, and I'm sure it wasn't you weren't leaning towards the kindness and belonging aspect of it yet. But as you think about people being unkind, what was your first experience with it?
Well, I was pregnant at 16 in high
Whoa,
school.
stop. It's like
Yes.
Screech.
Rewind. Yes, I became very interested in boys and driving in cars with boys in early years of high school. And when I became pregnant, I definitely had a world of judgment down on me in neighbors, friends, families in my church. Those were all shocking. And especially at that time in a small town, that was a lot of unkindness at that time.
So give us an example of what that about what was actually going on in terms of maybe an example of some of the unkindness and how it affected you.
Yes, as a teenager, you do not have the capacity to deal with very adult situations or other adults who have their own situations. And so as a teenager, I felt very um, influenced by the adults around me, by judgments of other students. It was especially a message from my church, belonging to a Mormon church. It was very shocking and upsetting, that would be something that a good girl did not do. And that was a very difficult time for me and my family within that religion.
So were you ostracized? I mean, were you told that you couldn't be a part of your church, or what was the solution then? What did you have to do in order for people to bring you back into the fold and treat you kindly again?
Yes. Well, it was unclear to me as a teenager what I would need to do. There wasn't any, instructions or anybody telling me what I needed to do. I think it must have been even harder on my parents to be, solid members of a church and then to have judgments from others. So the unkindness was not only directed at me, but it was to my larger family, that there was something wrong with the family. And that
Oh,
judgment and unkindness was for everyone. It
for
included everyone.
everyone. We're going to touch a little bit more on that when we come back from our break. Don't let me forget where we were.
All right.
Okay. So, Dr. Deb, we're back, and we left off at it wasn't just you. It now became a family issue. What was going on with your family and the way that they were being treated?
Yes. So, in a small town, in a small church, there are great expectations and standards, especially within the Mormon church, of how families should be and behave. And if you do not meet all of those requirements, you are considered unworthy, inappropriate to be there. And so the entire family took um, the brunt of that. Parents, my siblings, it was everyone. And the unkindness came in, statements behind closed doors that then would get passed on at school, or things that neighbors would say to my mother, or just unkindnesses that were unnecessary. And I shook most of them off. It wasn't as if I internalized them, but it had a long-term effect on the family. It made them less interested in remaining in that religion because of the unkindnesses. When you experience that level of unkindness, it doesn't bring you closer into your culture. It,
It
drives a
takes you
wedge.
away.
Mhm.
It takes you away.
Mhm.
I am so pleased to hear about the support that they gave you because I've heard the very opposite. I've heard of when families don't choose their
Mhm.
children and they decide that they agree with whoever the powers at be, whoever they are, that
Yeah.
yes, my child is awful and I'm with you instead of I'm with my child.
Yes.
So my hat's off to your
Yes.
parents for sticking with you and
Yes.
supporting you and loving you through all of the challenges that you were going through at the time, and as a result, bringing your family probably even closer together, I would imagine.
Yes, it was absolutely unconditional love. There was no separation from us as a family. There was no, we came closer together. The um, church members drove that wedge, but not within the family. So my parents were amazing and supportive, and I just got busy doing what I knew was the right thing to do, and started on my education
That's
journey.
certainly an inspiration. So here you are.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit. So you have this baby, and
Yes,
you move on with your psychology career.
I do.
And what was that like?
Yeah.
Having a little baby and going to school and
Yes.
and all of those things.
Yes. I immediately took my GED, went into my first college class just instantaneously within a few months. Baby Brittany was born shortly after that, and she has always been at school with me since. She can name, many campuses where she played and went to class with me. Just it was, our degrees that we were getting along the
That
way.
you worked on
Mhm.
together. That is so wonderful. And I know Britt, and she is an amazing woman now
Yes.
with two children of her own, a
Yes.
great husband, and living her best life. And
Yes.
she's had a wonderful example from her mom, Dr. Deb.
Well, thank you.
And so you then become who you are today, even with all of those challenges that you went through, and decide that one of your specialties will be in kindness and belonging. And so my question now as we move forward is, why is it that people, what are some of the reasons why people are kind? We know that they are. We know that many of us have suffered as a result of it. But let's touch on some of the reasons why. And I know that you can pinpoint those for us.
Yeah, there's many reasons that individuals are unkind. Of course, my clinical psychology training immediately makes me think of the mental health issues. A lot of times, individuals are struggling so deeply with their own mental health issues that they are unable to see what they're doing, that they are deep into a personality disorder, or they have anger issues, or there's some mental health issue that leads them to be unkind. So that's my first thought on that, as sometimes it's their own issues. Other times it is environments. If you are raised in an environment in which you are rewarded for being tough and hard, if you are, tough and in a workplace and you get rewarded for that and advanced for that, then you might lean more on those unkindnesses. So it could be mental health issues, it could be environmental issues, and sometimes people are simply reacting to a situation at that moment. So it varies. Is this a long-term pattern? Is this something that you get rewarded or reinforced? Or is it something that is just this particular situation? I think all of us have been unkind in a moment. Anger's a real emotion, frustrations happen. There are real issues that lead us to being unkind in a moment, but is it a pattern? Is it that one thing and then you apologize and you move on? Or is it a long-standing
So, yeah, is it
problem?
something that goes on and on and on? So let's take the mental health issue, and let's just take a scenario. You're working with someone and you're feeling unkindness all of the time.
Mhm.
You know, you're feeling even
Mhm.
bullied. You're feeling like you're not getting ahead because of the way that this person is treating you. How do you handle this in a work environment? How do you, in some ways, even diagnose the fact, you know, that this person has mental health challenges as it pertains to how it is affecting you? What do you do
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, that's, I think your first step is to recognize that that might be happening for that individual. It doesn't excuse it or it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't condone it, but it does help you recognize that that's possible, that that might be an issue this individual has. For one university, I even designed a psychopathy in the workplace course because we spend a lot of time with other people in the workplace, sometimes even more than our own
More than we
families.
do at home.
And we
Absolutely.
need to know that that can be happening, that that is a possibility of what we're seeing or experiencing. So that does kind of take that ownership back to you, where you know it isn't something random that's just happening to you, or even that it's necessarily focused on you. Their issues may be so serious and severe that that's what you're seeing. Again, a range of possibilities. If it's a repeated pattern and they're willing to do something about it, then there's a solution. If they're not willing to do something about it, that's a different problem.
And so, in that case, it is okay then to take your concerns to the next level
Yeah.
because it is affecting you in such a way that could truly be unhealthy. Would you
Yes.
agree?
Yes, and it probably isn't just happening to you. It probably is happening to other
Mm,
coworkers, or it's happening in other situations. And so, if you have someone who is really just out of control and you don't report that, they probably just get passed to the next department, or it gets overlooked, or nobody wants to say anything, and then there's no documentation or history of any
understood.
problems.
So, chances are then if it's happening to you, it's happening to someone else. And if enough people, of course, are
Mhm.
letting the people that need to know this,
Right.
then there could be some help for that individual because ultimately that's what we're looking for, right?
Right.
Is for help for them.
Right. And as I said, we're in our workplaces so many hours and we are put into a situation in which we must work with other individuals. And unless we're on some project on our own, which is rare nowadays, we definitely have to find a way to work with
To work with
others.
people,
Mhm.
yes. All right, and then the other thing that you had said is environment,
Right.
and we have no control over someone's environment, how they were raised, where they were raised, where they
Yes.
live now, what's
Yes.
surrounding them now. But what we do know is they're not treating me very kindly, and it
Right.
is affecting me on the day to day. What can you do in that situation to recognize that and then to do something about it?
Yes, what to do about it. If it is serious enough, you are going to have to put measures in place to protect yourself. You're going to have to be first, and you'll understand that others have issues, but you've got to be number one in this solution. So protecting yourself. If it is a physical risk, then you're going to have to make sure you are somewhere physically safe. If it is emotionally abusive, you're going to have to make some decisions about how you protect yourself and getting help. So, of course, as a counselor, I recommend getting counseling, getting professional help and support to make some of those decisions. But first and foremost is your safety.
And so, people are always talking about, "God, it's just not as easy as that." I mean, I need my job. I don't want to put myself in a situation
Mhm.
where, I could, too much attention is put on me. And, that I might be a challenge to working
Right.
with other people because I'm bringing this up or I'm trying to, make
Mhm.
changes. What do you do in a situation like that?
Yeah, if you're in a workplace, you're going to have to make some decisions about how you can control your own environment. Can you limit the exposure with that individual? Can you document things? Can you find ways to handle your own internal emotions, your own set of responses to that? Because we don't have to react to the unkindnesses. We don't have to deal with that. If it's a spouse, a significant other, a family member, then you've got a different set of challenges to figure out how much time I want to spend with that person. But in all cases, that focus should still be on you. What do you need? How will
What do
you
you
deal with
need?
it? Yes.
And that's something that I want to talk about when we come back from our break. What we need to be doing at home,
Yes.
because what we do at home, we bring into our work environment, and that's where some of the problems start.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to talk about next. Okay, so we were talking about coming back and talking about our home environments. And we don't always know what is going on in someone's home as to the reasons why, I might be being treated unkindly. Okay. So let's go into our homes. What, can we do to bring that to the surface at home without causing problems, to get things to change there so that not only will it be better for us at home, but that it will be better for all that's around us, including our work and our community time and special time that we have with others.
Right. Again, I'm going to say we don't control others. We have no say over what they think, feel, do, how they react in the world. If your, spouse comes home from a bad day and wants to kick the door on the way in, you don't control that. What you do control are your boundaries, the things you'll accept, how you want to react to that, your own emotions, which most of us have like an immediate response to that, a threat. And we have to learn that control because we don't control the other individual. So we never know what's going on behind closed doors for other individuals. Even in our own homes, we don't control anyone else in that house, but we do have to watch out for ourselves. So focusing on you first is the priority.
So is there like any key thing, like when you know that enough is enough? And I kind of feel like that's probably an internal thing, like, okay, this is it. But
Yeah.
maybe there's something a little bit more academic that you could share with us that could help us to know when we need to get help for ourselves because it's affecting
that
everything
serious.
about
Yes.
our lives.
It's your values. It's your value. If you can distill down the core issue of what you care about, what's important to you, if it is important to you to have peace and calm in your house, if it is important to you to have boundaries of what is said or done, those are the things you value. And you then need to have your actions and others meet those boundaries. But it starts with your values. What's important? Not everything is equally important. You don't need battles over everything. But if kindness is a priority, if speaking kindly to each other or having a calm, peaceful household is important, then you need to do the things that will lead to that. Not that everyone's going to get on board with you, and you have to be prepared for that too.
So someone who recognizes, you would first have to recognize that kindness can make a difference in your life and then therefore the lives of other people. So how does that happen? How does that recognition of understanding the importance of kindness happen?
Yes, I think again, if you value that in homes where you're sharing values, let's say with your children, you're passing on things that you say outwardly. You say, in our family, we value honesty, or in our family, we value kindness. It might be a spoken idea of what our family cares about. Other times it is unspoken. Maybe it's modeled or it is not clearly stated, but certainly understood. This is what our family cares about. And in those cases, if you don't include kindness, that's not a part of an upbringing. It's not part of the message you're conveying to your kids. So I think it's an important one. I think it is important to say out loud, we value kindness in our family. We act according to that value, and we want others to show those same things, that we have a boundary, that's an expectation. So it can start, when you're young, where you value that kindness. Otherwise, you encounter situations of unkindness that then makes you want to do differently.
I see.
That you experience it and you don't want to just perpetuate that on and on.
That makes total sense. And so when we think of kindness and being in environments where unkindness is being shown upon us and to others, let's talk about the safety issues of that. I was reading a report not too long ago that talked about how when you're unkind to people, how that affects them from a mental standpoint and how it affects them physically. And I'm talking negatively.
Yes.
And so can we talk a little bit about the importance to our own mental and physical health that kindness brings?
Yes, it's critical because our mental health will suffer if we have a series of unkindnesses. And remember, they can be minor slights. Somebody said something rude to me in line at the grocery store, all the way through to abusive situations. So unkindnesses can happen in a lot of different ranges. If we don't take care of those, we will have serious mental health issues ourselves. So we will develop mental health issues because of those unkindnesses. So we have to have ways to deal with those and to be able to handle them. It's not that we're not ever going to be able to avoid them, having other people say unkind things, or we're not going to be able to, never experience somebody's anger. So we have to be prepared, coming back to our own actions. And our mental health is intimately connected with our physical health. So there's no separation of those two. They are going to always be linked, our physical and
Your mental health will manifest itself physically every time.
Yes. As they say, the body keeps score. So you have to make sure you're dealing with the unkindnesses and coping and finding healthy ways to cope so that you're also protecting your physical health. And you can't be separating the two goals.
So I know there are people in situations where they feel as though they have to remain in an unkind situation. And now we're discussing how unhealthy that is. So when, we talked enough is enough, it is certainly okay to remove yourself. Let's talk about the difficulties of that and why it's important at some point if it continues to do that very thing.
Yes, it's important to have conflict resolution skills. It's important to have emotional regulation so that when you encounter them, you have an immediate, positive, healthy reaction. So you need those skills for yourself. After that, you might have to remove yourself from the situation. So as you said, some people will say, I can't just leave my job. I can't just walk out on my family member. Those are real situations in which you're going to have to figure out and make some difficult decisions. But again, that shouldn't be done without some professional guidance.
I was going to say that's not a decision that you would make without having a professional to help you.
Yes,
and there sometimes is a stigma behind that. Let's get rid of the stigma of getting, professional help from a mental standpoint.
Yes.
I always say, if you go out and you break your arm, you're not going to walk around with an arm dangling off the socket, right? You're going to run in and you're going to get some help for that. It's the same with our mental health. There is absolutely no reason to deal with that day in and day out of people being unkind, or you feeling as though unkindness is affecting your mental health. This is why we have professionals, and it's so important to do.
And that might be in-person counseling. It might be online. We have more services now for online than ever. So if it is a matter of time, how am I going to go to a group counseling session, or how am I going to fit this in? There are a lot of good online services as well. And if you have insurance, often it covers counseling. There's no reason you shouldn't get professional help, just like you would a specialist in any other area.
I totally agree 100. I am a total advocate of therapy. And there's so many different types of therapies that are out there. Long gone are the days of, you got to go sit on a couch and tell someone all of your problems and they give you a pill and you're good. There are lots of different ways to get therapy that can be very helpful for your well-being. When I think sometimes about people that are unkind, I think that sometimes people are unkind and they don't even intend to be. So whether that's, as we talked about mental health environment, or, they're just having a bad day. And to sort of get to a place where you can minimize that and think about more about being kind, just legitimately, intentionally thinking about, yes, I want to be more kind, but I have done some unkind things and I want to move forward with the intention of being kind more often. Is there anything wrong with apologizing? And why are apologies important? Not that we can take it back, but what does it do for the person that you apologize to, and what does it do for you?
Yes, an authentic apology does a lot to clear the air, to reset a situation. If you know you've wronged someone and you have contact with them still, it is important to make a sincere apology, not an automatic, I'm so sorry that happened, or I'm so sorry I acted inappropriately.
Or I got caught or whatever.
Yes, but a sincere one that you intend to make changes. And that is something that will be shared with the other person. They'll know authenticity. People can tell when other people are authentic.
And you have no intention of doing it again. Hopefully you've learned from the situation.
Right.
You've apologized with no intention of making that same mistake again, whatever that was that caused the other person to feel as bad as they did in terms of being unkind.
Absolutely. And sometimes you don't have the opportunity to say it to the person that you've wronged. So you snap at the customer service person on the phone, and then you hang up and you feel badly about doing that and you don't want to do it again. You might not be able to call and get them on the phone immediately to say, sorry, I was actually angry about something else and I just happened to be on the phone with you. It is then a matter of forgiveness inward. So apologize to those that you have communication with authentically and with the intention of not letting it happen. Now, if you snap at your spouse, I can just about guarantee that will indeed happen again. So even though you're saying, I sincerely apologize and I will try to control my emotions, most likely it's going to happen again. This is a real emotion. We feel frustrated, angry, sad, whatever. And in the cases where you can't fix that with someone else, the forgiveness for yourself to understand that you are a human being and you have the entire range of emotions and that you might make mistakes is also important to forgive yourself. Same with the unkindnesses, the individuals who've done you wrong, the people that have been unkind to you also need your forgiveness. Why? Not because you condone their behavior, not because you expect that you'll just live with that unkindness the rest of your life. It's for you. Forgiveness is for you. It is not to, as the Buddhists would say, carry around a hot coal in your pocket. that doesn't hurt anybody but you.
But you, that's
So
right.
forgive fast and work on the forgiveness or apologies or, reconciliation. Work on those things slowly. Forgive quickly because it's for you and getting that rid of pain in your heart of people who've wronged you. Take your time in the other areas.
It reminds me of Maya Angelou, and I don't remember the quote exactly, but it was something about, wearing something and it's just too big for you. You're wearing this big old coat. It doesn't fit you. Get rid of it.
Yes.
Get rid of it. Find something that fits you. It's not right to walk around with all of that extra weight. It's not good for you. Just take it off and forgive yourself so that you can move forward.
Yes.
And I think the more that you're aware, you were talking about if someone maybe bites at their spouse, okay, you bit at him or you bit at her, you're aware that you did. Maybe the next time you won't be so quick to do it because you're aware that you're doing it. So the more we become aware of our unkind actions, and if that's not what we want to be, the better that we can become if we're aware of it and we are willing to do something about it.
Yes.
And
committing to the change, committing to do it differently. And usually that requires slowing down.
yes,
That almost
thinking
always
about it.
requires not reacting immediately, getting your own emotions under control,
Yes.
breathing, all the tools, right? Count to 100, go
If it
splash
takes
water on your
100,
face,
yeah.
walk around the block, whatever that is. Usually it
Yes.
starts with just slowing down.
Isn't it something how just some of the basic things that our parents told us when we were little, like the whole counting thing, count, my mom would say, okay, just take a breath,
Right.
count to 10.
Right.
Makes a world of difference. And when you
Yes.
just shoot out and just say something.
Yes.
you
And,
know,
and that
out
comes
of
back to
emotion.
the deep breathing you can learn at yoga or
Yes.
a mantra that you learn when meditating or anything that just slows that down because we rise up with those emotions and we need to just bring them back down so that we can work on the issue in front of us. So again, the forgiveness to ourselves, forgiving those who've injured us, those are things that benefit us. That's for our health, and that's a good place to start. And then dealing with others slowly, calmly, with intention, and just being aware of what you want to accomplish,
That's
which is to be
great.
kind.
What I would like to do is thank you again, Dr. Deb, for being here. You're just always great. We could probably take apologies and forgiveness as it pertains to kindness and just do our own episode with that. So we might just do that.
Yes, that would be great.
But what I would love for you to do is to leave our audience with a tip that they can do for someone else as it pertains to being kind and a tip for themselves.
Oh, wonderful. Number one, think about that forgiveness. Think about the forgiveness you need to do for yourself or for others. Again, you're not saying that unkindness was okay or that you would ever accept it again, but it doesn't need to keep burning you.
Okay.
They may not even know they were unkind, and you carrying around the anger, unhappiness, frustration is only injuring you. If they're even aware that they did it, that's not hurting them. It's hurting you. That would be for yourself. If you're encouraging other people to do an act of kindness or you want to do something for someone else, I would say start by talking about it, talking about your intention to be kind. Talk about it in your families. Talk about it with each other. The demonstration and the talking are important. Say it out loud and then do something that models it or represents what you would like to do.
So it's not just about saying it,
Mhm.
it's about doing it.
Yeah, those actions have power, right? You can say, I intend to be kind, but then you need to have the behaviors that go with that. And as a cognitive behavioral psychologist, that combination is powerful. How you think and what you do, and when they come together is incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Deb.
Thank you.
And I'm going to leave everybody with what I most of the time say, and that is, it's kind to be kind. So what? Be kind.
Yes,
Be
absolutely.
kind. Thanks again.
Thank you.